Hi there. Welcome to Knit Cheerful, a podcast about knitting dedicated to sharing my experiences and connecting with the community at all stages of the knitting process. Dyers, spinners, fellow knitters, designers, etc. I'm excited that you're able to join me today, and I hope that you'll be able to tune in for future episodes as well. The plan for this podcast is to release episodes bi-weekly, and each time I plan on covering a couple of different segments, including updates on whips, finished objects, stash enhancements as they come up, which can be pretty frequently, connecting with the community, so I have some fun things lined up for that, and interesting facts related to the world of knitting. This is a personal passion of mine. I absolutely love delving into the history and the culture surrounding the knitting community. And then some fun things that I throw in for good measure. So hopefully you'll be tuning in and along for the ride. I'd like to apologize, by the way, for any puppy noises that you may hear. I have 3 amazing dogs, and I have no doubt that they will be rescheduling playtime for whenever it is that I plan on filming this podcast. So hopefully it's not too disruptive. So by way of introduction, my name is Sarah Rose, and I live in New Jersey, on the Jersey Shore, but no, it's nothing like the TV show, if that happens to be your only reference for New Jersey. It's really nothing like that show. I've grown up here, though I've been incredibly fortunate to be able to travel and see a lot of different parts of the world. My mom taught me to knit when I was younger, probably grade school, and I actually started with this lovely scarf. So you can see, it's absolutely beautiful. It's kind of like a thick, thin style yarn. It definitely feels like a chunky weight yarn, and it actually has a little bit of a halo, if you can see that. I don't remember what kind of yarn it is, but it's like this beautiful cream mixed with a pale pink. And I remember, I not only loved knitting it, but I remember that it knit up quite quickly. And then I very soon thereafter, with my mom, we went to the store and I got some yarn for a couple of other projects, but I cast them on and made some progress on one, and then kind of got distracted by other things that I was interested in. And actually I haven't picked knitting back up until I want to say maybe the last 4 or 5 years, from whence I haven't actually put my knitting needles down. So I've been pretty consistently, avidly knitting for, I would say, the last 4 or 5 years or so, which has just been a blast. I love knitting. So anyway, obviously, since I'm doing this podcast. So yeah, I have 2 sisters, and I'm fortunate that both of them knit. So a lot of fun is when my mom, my sisters, and I can all knit together. That's really a blast. We really have a lot of fun together. So to continue along, I thought I would dive into my current main work in progress, which I also put up on my Instagram, which is at KnitCheerful. But this is the, hold it up. This is the, you can see that? Oh, I'm probably showing you the mistakes. I should have found the parts that didn't have any mistakes to showcase. Anyway, just so you can see, it's a brioche cowl. It's the first time that I'm doing brioche, so it's been a lot of fun, but there are mistakes that after like the first couple, I decided to deliberately leave in as part of the process. It's kind of a little credo of mine that as I'm doing something for the first time, I like to kind of work it out and see where I went wrong and learn from that experience. I did actually try to fix a couple of these mistakes. It's brioche in the round, which evidently is very highly recommended for doing it for the first time. I think it's supposed to be easier because you're not going back and forth. So it just kind of consistently in the round, which makes perfect sense. But anyway, I tried to fix a couple mistakes and they ended up being disastrous because of the yarn overs. So I decided to leave a couple of the mistakes thereafter in place to remind myself of the journey of learning a new stitch. But I really am enjoying brioche, so I plan on another project and maybe not having mistakes, or that's always the goal, or learning how to fix the mistakes effectively in the next project. But yeah, so this is great. This is going really nicely. This is yarn and pattern that I got from Joy McMillan, the knitting goddess. I met her. She had a booth set up at the Edinburgh Yarn Festival, which just happened this past, it was mid-March of this year. And this was my first time going. I went with my mom and one of my two sisters. We had an amazing time. She was lovely. Joy was absolutely lovely, and she was really, really helpful. And I loved the rainbow yarn. I love happy colors. I'm really drawn to pastels and fun, bright colors as well. I just like color. I'm really drawn to color. It's really like one of my most favorite things about knitting is color work, actually. But this has been a lot of fun, and she had them all bundled up in these little, I think they're only like 25 grams, but it came in like this really fun, it included all of these colors, of course, this fun little rainbow bundle, which was so much fun to buy, and it has a great, it feels so soft and so squishy, and it knits up really, really nicely. I love the way it's knitting up, and the colors are awesome. I'm really enjoying this, so I highly recommend it. And if anybody is interested, I'm going to put the name of the pattern as well, just so that it's more accessible underneath this episode. But yeah, so that's been I cast that on while we were in Edinburgh, actually. So that's been progressing, and I just joined the 8th of 12 colors, so it is working up nicely, and that is the kind of like a yellow, I'll just show you the yarn. That is a kind of like a yellow, like a deep marigold, I guess, color. So yeah, so I'm really enjoying that. And then as far as stash enhancement, so I don't know if this would really count as stash enhancement because I'm not showing anything that I just got at Edinburgh, but I got this amazing yarn from my mom. She went on a trip with my dad to Hawaii, and they brought back this absolutely stunning yarn. And this has just joined my stash. They went a couple months ago, so it's not a brand new stash enhancement, but stash enhancement all the same. I'm gonna actually cast on scarf shawl. It's like a scarf shawl. It's called the Asymmetrical. I think it's called the Asymmetrical Scarf, but my mother knit one of these in a different yarn, and it really does look more like a shawl or a shawlette. So yeah, so there's that for stash enhancement. Contact with the community. I'm lining up a couple of interviews for future episodes, so stay tuned. I'm excited about that. Interesting facts related to knitting. That's something that I'm looking forward to doing some research about from episode to episode. So as far as this episode's fun little knitting-oriented fact, or pearl of wisdom, is the first known knitted objects they date back from Egypt. So between circa like 1100 to 1400 AD. And they're these beautiful fragments, unfortunately, are all that remain, but they're these beautiful cotton and indigo socks. And it looks like stranded color work. So as per the article that I was looking at, which I'm going to include the link for here in this podcast info, it can't possibly be the first knitted object. It's just the first one that we know of, because and the author was quite amusing. She was like, who starts with color work? So while I'm sure people do, it was just kind of amusing. But yeah, so I'm sure there are some plain, boring vanilla socks out there that we're just not aware of, but these are on display in, I believe, the Victoria and Albert Museum. So I'm going to put that info up here as well. But yeah, so that's just something interesting about the origin of knitting. So have you ever heard of knot binding? So this is actually something that was often confused with knitting, the origins of knitting. So the finished project actually looks very similar, but the process is done with 2 needles, but it actually relates a little bit closer to sewing than it does to knitting, but perhaps you've heard of it, or maybe you know something else related to the origins of knitting which are interesting, and I would love for you to share. I really want to open up a dialogue about knitting, about anything you might know about knitting, really anything at all. I think it'd be fun to start a little dialogue about that. So please feel free to share in the comments below. I look forward to reading them if you have anything that you'd like to say. So I think that's it for now, episode number 1 of Knit Cheerful, and I look forward to getting back on here in a couple weeks and putting up another episode. So hopefully you'll subscribe and stay tuned for future knitting adventures. Happy knitting, and thanks for coming. Bye.